team changes as well, obviously with the constant of Mr. Trustwell sitting off to my right. Now this is the leader in the pit lane, but in the penalty box. So a slight stumble to the plans. Well, I've got to say now, I'll be honest, I'd bring Richard Neri in because he can do that. There's no... Well, this is a long one.
It'll be interesting to see how long this is, because whilst we were on the previous Code 60, I was just looking up to see what the penalty is for overtaking during a Code 60. And there is a penalty for overtaking whilst the Code 60 procedure is on. And on the decision of the race director, this can be penalised with a time penalty of 1 minute.
And I think that's what they're getting. And we saw, didn't we, Martin Short going past the number 172 Honda.
And you wagged your finger at him, didn't? Or you wagged your finger at the screen.
Yes.
You didn't wag your finger at Martin, but you did wag your finger at the screen.
I was in theory, I was wagging it at Martin.
In your head?
Yeah.
Yes, quite. Well, the car has been at rest, or sorry, it's been in the pit lane for just over a minute.
Joe Bradley has asked the team what that's all about, Joe.
I'm not sure if, while I was talking to them there, I'm not sure if you guys were aware, but Martin Short's just told me they got caught out a little. Martin in the fuel station pulls out of the fuel station, accelerates up to racing speed, overtakes some cars upon leaving the pits, and finds himself in a Code 60. And so has been given a minute's penalty for that, and he was unaware of the Code 60, and he didn't become aware of the Code 60 situation until he'd accelerated way past 60 kilometres and overtaken cars. So they've kind of slapped their wrists for that one, and this is the penalty that they're soaking up now, and that was for pretty much during the night. So
no, it was on camera, Joe. Yeah, we saw it. The bright red engine change Honda, as it shall now be known, was one of the cars that he went by.
The car's up on its jacks, and we're seeing a driver change. Richard Neri gets out. Very good effort from him. 2 hours on, 2 hours off with Martin Short. We now got Charles Lamb at the wheel of the car. Martin, no tyres going on, no fresh tyres? Oh, they are fresh tyres. All right, they did that pretty stealthily. So fresh tyres, and would you believe the number one showing on the window of that car, and quite aptly the 127, the former leader, comes in on the back of a flatbed as the BMW pulls away on pit road.
That is the picture that encapsulates the last 20 minutes or so. The Martin Short's Roll Centre team, ABBA Commercials car, going out of the pit lane with number one on the side as the 15-hour-long leader comes in on the back of the flatbed. You don't see that happen very often, but that was the shot that encapsulates the joy and pain of endurance racing. Richard Neri's just got out of the 246 BMW, and we'll have a word with him with Joe Bradley in a moment's time. He's just rehydrating, and Joe can have a chat with him in a moment. That was a bit of a scrambling stint there, Joe, for the guys, because they clearly Richard only due to be in for about 40 minutes or so while they assessed the conditions. Had to get in because Martin was running out of drive time, and then decided to refuel him and leave him in for as long as they could. The penalty assessed and the fuel coming to an end, which is what brought him in. So an interesting tactical change around as the car is just getting the last of its 110 litres of fuel. Now, will the 303 car get a lap back here as that pit stop has
it just
continued? It just has. Thank you, Graham.
About a minute ago.
Joe Bradley?
Yes, we have Richard now.
I think you should interview us both, to be honest, because it's as much Martin that's got us here as me.
Well, you know what? That's great. That's fantastic, because it is. You two guys have gotten that BMW in a position where, after the demise of the 127 car, you're in a position to take over that lead. And it came down to tactics, and it just shows how flexible you have to be. Richard, when you took over that car, you were going to be in the car for 40 minutes, Martin told me.
That's right.
That changed, though, because of the Code 60.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. I jumped in to do a short stint just to finish off what the fuel that was in the car, and then we were going to do a driver change, but I got in the car, we saw we were making big ground on the other car, so they brought me in, refuel, sent me out, so that the driver that's got in it now has got in with really warm tyres, and he's good to go, so he can do a full stint now.
And Martin, I take nothing from this, mate. You guys were driving 2 hours on, 2 hours off in very, very difficult conditions. Not so much physical in the wet, but certainly concentration level and mental fitness came into it, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And like I said to you at, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, that was the toughest 2 hours I'd ever spent in a racing car because the conditions were unbelievable. You just couldn't see. And you're doing 150 mile an hour down the hangar straight, and it was bad. And Richard obviously had the same. But, it's really dreadful to see a competitor go out like that. It's happened to us. I'm not going to say anything about what could happen. Exactly. But whatever happens now, we've had an amazing race, and I take my metaphorical hat off to Team Blake and Molan for a fantastic job that they've done. They have been the class of the field, and at one point they had a 5-lap lead. They've done an amazing job. It's a cruel sport. None of us like to see that, but we'll see what we can do with this, and we'll keep everything crossed.
Yeah, good to see. Now, Richard, we're talking about the flexibility that you have to have in your tactics. Who's making those decisions? Because I'm sure it's not you at the wheel of the car. It's this man here.
Obviously.
Yeah, I've heard him shouting around.
Who's the old dog in the pit lane that's done it all before?
Martin, these decisions have to be made pretty quickly and pretty instantly with an ever-changing desert of situations, isn't it?
Well, to be honest, what we do is, we've got Nathan on the data, we've got Luke, my engineer, we've got Richard on the radio, and we end up, at some point, we all end up talking together, and we decide between us what's the best thing to do. There's been a couple of things that I've done as a gut decision, like the tyres, the going on to slicks, I guess my ideas have been a little bit more unusual by driving straight through and going straight to the fuel. So we've done things a little bit differently, but I think, this is only the second race we've done with Creventic, so I think it's a bit more by luck than any working things out on an Excel spreadsheet, believe me.
No, I know exactly, because I heard you when Richard just gone out, code 60 comes out, and I heard you shout, he's got to come in. Is it come down to just you? It's not a committee decision, that, is it?
No, I guess you could say that.
A camel. You have, Richard. A camel is a horse designed by a committee, so I'm an advocate of that kind of style of managing.
Yeah, well, we do have a committee, but then there's a Bernie Eccleston who'll bang his fist and hope that he gets it right.
Overall, though, Richard, you've had a great night, I would imagine. This has been a great race for you guys so far.
It's been a roller coaster so far, Some of the worst conditions I've ever drove in, and I've had some of the best overtakes I've ever done. Around the outside at Copse, around the outside at Luffield, phenomenal. That doesn't happen all the time. It's been great. It's been great so far. Long may it continue. Last few hours, fingers crossed.
Fingers and toes, guys. Thanks.
Miggins Motorsport, the brilliantly entitled Miggins Motorsport tweets, I think the bronze bust of Martin Short is being commissioned on Monday, # National Treasure. He's going to love that. We're not going to hear the last of that either, are we?
That's the best and the worst result.
But he is a national treasure.
No, I agree. I agree.
Never did anything
nice
dull in motorsport. Never did anything dull in motorsport.
And frankly, I think it's a disgrace that Ricky Gervais is always trying to do such an impression of Martin when he talks.
Taking the mickey, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Charles Lamb, by the way, is behind the wheel of the 246 for the first time in the race. Is that correct, Paul?
That is correct, yes. He's yet to complete his opening lap. He's still on his out lap around the circuit, and then we'll get a representative lap time from him. But the gap that he has is a comfortable one of a lap and a lot before we get the...
Which has become a technical measurement now.
Well, we have the advantage on the screen of having a distance or a time difference that separates first from second, but I always think it's nice to measure it in terms of laps. The problem with a lap is that a lap can be a lap and a bit or a lap and a lot. So we've got, there's a lap and a half in the middle there somewhere. So those are the kind of broad terms. In time terms, it's 9.5 minutes.
immediately. Before something else happens, just a thought as we're inside the last 5 hours from both of you, just about the event itself. I mean, we'll sum up obviously at the end of the race, but 41, 42 cars been playing for the most part of the week. 41 took the start, Graham. Yes, it would have been nice to have had a few more cars, but the meter of the race, the pace of the race actually has suited what we've had.
Well, I think there's two things to say. 41 cars is fine if you've got 41 reliable cars, and we've had some real reliability here despite the prevailing conditions. So there's been nothing wrong with the entertainment levels on track. I think in terms of the balance between the classes, it's been about right. We've had cars from 2 or 3 classes in the top 3 and 4 through an awful lot of the running before the TCR and the quicker SP touring cars took command. In terms of the feel of the paddock, faultless as always. I don't think I've ever been to anything other than a very happy Crevantic meeting, and that's continued here. In terms of the package, a 24-hour race for touring cars, case proven. I think this far, with 5 hours to go, John, case very much proven, and I think they've got another winner on their hands.
And Paul, we've mentioned this a number of times, I'm going to say it again, the data collection and the way the technical group at Crevantic work with the teams, it's working. The pace between the cars, the great news for the 246 team as that helicopter comes into land is that Charles Lamb is behind the wheel of the car and not Darren Cox, who was distracted yesterday by Lawrence Tomlinson arriving in his jobber. It's been followed by 1 or 2 others. 212 leads that at the moment, the A2 category, in 12th position for Presenza. That's the team Sally Racing that had been leading that class before the incident in the darkness out at Beckett's. Joe Bradley.
Yeah, you mentioned the 112 Clio there. That's in the pits with overheating, and while we cool the engine down, we're taking the opportunity to get some brake pads refreshed, starting with the rear.
Charles Lamb, John, lest anyone says, is turning in some pretty good lap times since he's been in this stint. His first flying lap when he got into the car was a 2 minutes 22. Then he did a 2:21. Then he did a 2 minutes 20. In fact, he did 2 minutes 20s. And he's just eased off a bit on that last lap with a 2:24. And I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't the team manager saying, hey, Charles, you don't actually need to go quite as quickly as you're going at the moment.
He's actually pulled the gap further out.
He has, absolutely. Never mind about worrying about whether Charles was going to be able to hold his own out there. He's gone out there and he's done a good job, a very good job indeed, John.
And again, what needs doing at the moment by those guys is to stretch the fuel to as close to the 2-hour limit as they can, and that's the kind of pace that will do that. That's wet weather pace, and we saw, I mean, that was a great test for the team ABBA with Roll Centre guys to see how far they could go, so they know exactly the lap times that they need to be turning right now. The 303 is second. Bert de Hoos is not gaining on Charles Lamb, who is in his very first stint of the race in the SP Touring class leader, also leading the Hankook 24 Hours at Silverstone. The team ABBA with Roll Centre Racing BMW V8. The 246 car with a 4 minutes 49 second lead. Let's go down to the pit lane. A2 has been a class of attrition. Second place in A2 in the pit lane at the moment. Joe Bradley has more.
Yeah, attrition continuing down here. 112, who was third in the A2 class, has been brought in with overheating.
Meanwhile, fastest man on track at the moment is again Charles Lamb, 2:20.458 as he works his lap number 400 for the lead car.
And our projection at the moment from the Woking Data Centre, that is Paul Trustwell, is for just over 500 laps?
502 at the moment, John, yes. So well short of any projected distance record, but that kind of went with the weather as much as the fact that we've had 15 code 60s. But at least if people want to start counting down, that's 502 laps for the race leader, whoever that might turn out to be.
And that's never a good
Probably
thing.
An airlock, to be honest.
It's surely got to be an airlock.
There's no, I mean, it hasn't got. You haven't got a leak, so you haven't got any kind of coolant hosing that shows any kind of leakage. So it's basically the coolant's not circulating and doing its job by passing through the radiator and being cooled and then on into the engine block, and that's what we're dealing with here.
Thank you, Joe. Joe Bradley down in the pit lane. The leader is down and across the line to complete another lap in front of us, Charles Lamb, and that was a 2:20.966, probably a little quicker than he needs to go at the moment, but if he's in the groove, leave him, is what I say.
I think that's absolutely right, yes. As I say, I think what he does have to do is when he comes across traffic, then he can afford to be careful, not take any risks, and for the rest of it, just drive the car at the speed that he feels comfortable with, and he'll be saying, yes, I feel fine, the car is obviously good. I suspect the track is well rubbered in, and I suspect that will be that they are really feeling fairly comfortable with matters. But De Hoyce, I think, is going to be on his way into the pit lane again fairly shortly. I know he came in not so very long ago. In fact, his stint is just 8 laps, but he didn't take fuel on that previous stop. So De Hoyce isn't going to be long before he's in the pits again.
Right, Charles just getting the back end of the lead car a little bit squirrely as he came through Club. Easy to do, just a little too much of the right foot. Often easier there to short shift from second to third or from third to fourth, depending on what car you're driving on a rear-wheel drive car, just to kill the wheel spin a little bit. It may also be that the traction control settings need a little bit of fine-tuning now that the car is back on slicks and also on dry weather surface. I think I'm right in saying that Charles drove this car in the 24 hours of Catalonia, Barcelona last year, Graham. Is that
Barcelona,
right?
that's right. He drove it there. I think he told me the last major race he did before that was with Roll Centre back in the day in the Bathurst 24 hours. Bathurst 24 hours, not the Silverstone 24 hours, in a Mosler. So he's not done a lot of racing, but I'm very impressed with his pace.
What impressed me was the way his first flying lap was straight in on a 2:20.
Yep.
He just came straight in, knew what to do. Obviously, the car feels good, and it performed underneath him just the way he needed it to do.
My hand gesture there was for down under, not right here.
Ah, right.
They came second. I realised why he said that there, but I was mid doing something else. Bathurst in the 24, and they came second in that. I've seen the trophy in Martin's workshop.
He's got another hour in the car, I believe, after which it will be Darren Cox aboard the leading car.
And thereafter, it will only need one more stop. So, by my calculation, Charlie will finish this stint, then Darren will do a stint, and then it will be one final stint, or 2/3, 3/4 of a stint, to get the car to the flag.
So 4.5 hours, give or take, to this race.
2:19.0, that time around from Charles Lamb. That's a mighty effort. And the gap being worked at the moment, I think it's Phil Quaife looking to get on the attack in third position. On the second place, 3:03. See Phil threading his way through the traffic there.
Yeah, Charles Lamb, that was his fastest lap that he's done in the car on that previous one, that 2:19.04. And he really just has taken this very progressively indeed.
Meantime, Charles Lamb still leads the motor race.
So another 2:19.9 for Charles Lamb in the lead of this race. Almost 5 minutes to the good now from the number 303. Red Camel, Jordans.nl. Seat Leon, the team member with Roll Centre Racing BMW, took over the lead after the dramatic exit from the race from the 127 Seat that had led the race, John, for 15 hours.
Yeah, just over 15 hours, amazing.
No Toyotas like the back of their hands, so it was an obvious choice for them for converting into something like a 24-hour race car.
And a very pleasant car to drive, I'm led to believe.
It's so easy to drive. I've driven Porsche Boxers for 4 years, which on the limit tend to be really snappy. This one, you can just drift it through corners.
3:03 on the timing and scoring into the pit lane on the completion of its 410th lap. 5 minutes and more behind Charles Lamb, who continues to... Oh, my goodness, he did a 2:18.4 last time around. Charles Lamb within a couple of tenths of the fastest lap that car has done. Charles, take it easy, Charles.
He's gone straight through for fuel.
Yeah.
But he's got an hour and 40 minutes on the driver time.
That's interesting.
That's very odd.
I'm expecting the radio call to Charles Lamb for a moment, just to drop his rev limit by 500 to 700 revs on each gear change after a 2 minutes 18.4. Well, that's very interesting.
I'm sure Martin's on the phone to him right now, being incredibly polite. It's the way it's always done.
Are you using the curbs? Just a polite inquiry. Let's have a look at Charles's driving as that car, remember, has a 2:18 minimum reference time. They got down to an 18.2 in the hands of Richard Neri, now an 18.4 last time around by Charles Lamb. No jokers to play here. It is a stop and go every time you break out of the bracket. Yeah, I think he slowed down in the second half of this lap. I think the radio call may have gone out. This is where you can easily spin up the back wheels on a powerful saloon car such as this M3 GTR alike.
A more than competent display.
Yes, 21.3.
Yeah, that's better, Charles. That's better. Keep it that.
Is what Shorty is saying in almost exactly those words, with just a few added.
I just think a couple of things just to add to the descriptive quality.
Indeed.
Of the advice. Should we call it advice?
Well, I don't know if you're allowed. Is it one of the 25 things they can talk about in this? Sunday, the 3rd of April. Leader Charles Lamb has eased his pace after proving he's just as quick in the car as Richard Neri, who was setting the fastest time of the race, a 2:18.2.
Not the first time we've seen a Charlie Lamb linked in with a fast BMW, of course.
Very good.
But different man, different spelling, different everything.
Charlie Lamb from Schnitzer BMW is actually Carl, is his given name. He's always been known as Charlie. Still very much involved in the BMW DTM programme. Much missed from endurance paddocks, I would say.
And the quote I know you love of Charlie Lamb's, which is?
There's only two sorts of people in the world: those who like and understand 24-hour racing and everybody else.
I know which ones we prefer.
That was a very long time ago now. That was Portland International Raceway in the early years of the American Le Mans series. Charlie and I sitting in the back of the Schnitzer trailer.
Doesn't it show, John? With a 4 to 5 lap advantage, the 127 car, it all looked like a foregone conclusion at one point. But we said all along,
15 hours in the lead.
15 hours.
15 hours out of 18 hours or whatever it was that we were talking about, and the car goes pop. And not really having to push that hard, interestingly, although the pressure was starting to be wound up by the Team Aberworth Roll Centre BMW, which I thought was very cleverly done. The tactics started really to play for the Martin Shaw-led team when Martin was in the car and made the call from the car with that code 60. Now, he only had 40 minutes left in the car. I'll take some slicks. Let's give it a go. And then at least we can have a decent assessment of what the situation will be when I have to get out of the car. So 20 hours is complete. The Team Aberworth Roll Centre Racing SP Touring BMW leads by 3 and a bit laps over the second place Red Camel Jordan's Seat, the TCR category car, in second place. That car is getting its penultimate stop at the moment in the pit lane. The 303 Seat Leon Cup Racer. In third place, the second TCR racing car is the Memac Ogilvy Dual Racing Machine with Phil Quaife pedalling that car for all he's worth.
So, meanwhile, up at the front of the field, the Charlie Lamb BMW M3 still going extremely rapidly in Charlie's hands and continuing to extend its advantage to the point where it is now further ahead of the rest of the field than it was behind the car that led the race for so long, the number 127 Blekemolen team Seat Leon. and Ivo Breukers, with having just taken the car out of the pits on a schedule, I would think now, to take the car to within 2 hours of the finish, and then Rick Breukers will take it from there. Phil Quaife in the number 1 car is actually lapping consistently more rapidly than the Breukers car. Initial diagnosis, then an initial fix, then a discussion, and then finally getting out again.
Never lost the lead of class while that happened, I have to say. They lost some general classification overall positions. Number 1, Phil Quaife, his pace has been mighty recently. He's the leading TCR car in 3rd position in class. Sorry, in 2nd position in class, 3rd overall.
And he is chasing down Ivo Breukers
to get a lap back.
Firstly to get a lap back on Ivo Breukers, but with little under 4 hours still to go, that car has possibly, potentially, pace enough to be able to...
That's the leader of the race ahead of him.
Yes, it is, yeah.
So that's Charlie Lamb that he's trying to get through. So that's 3rd overall and 2nd in class. The bright orange car is the leader in class. That's not that far ahead on the track, but is that plus 5.7 kilometres a full lap.
That's right, but as I say, there's enough time for that still to happen, and I think the Breukers team will be doing the same kind of projections that I'm doing to try and work out whether they're going to be able to stay ahead. But certainly when the car being driven by Phil Quaife, then it does go very rapidly indeed, and to an extent as well, when Ramsey Moutran is driving it, it also goes very rapidly.
Only half an hour left of his Quaifeness, though. He will have to get out because of driver limit, so the last 90 minutes or thereabouts will be have to be another driver. In fact, Bruce Jones can give us some news on that number 1 car. Bruce?
Yeah, you were just talking about Phil Quaife. Good afternoon. Yes, it's nice to say afternoon, isn't it? Yeah, all smiles down at Dual Racing. You're allowed to call them that because they say you only have to mention Mehmet Ogilvy when you've got lots of time. If it's all racer, you can call them Dual Racing. And yeah, Phil Quaife will be coming in. Ramsey's been doing his little sort of preparation dance, and the crew are out there. They've got a new set of slicks awaiting. Whether they'll put them all on, I think they probably will. But the mood is good here because Phil's certainly been closing in on that on the 303 Seat. So let's see what's going to unfold in the last 4 hours. But Ramsey's really keyed up for it.
Bruce, a little bit of wheel spin again from the 246. Charles Lamb behind the wheel of that Charlie Lamb. Charlie Lamb. Evoking a very funny sketch about football from many years ago from the Fast Show, I think. The 246 green and black ABBA Commercials car comes through to complete its 425th lap, which it does now with a 2:19.6.
He's pressing on, isn't he, Charlie? He's getting the wagging finger again from you, I noticed, on that previous lap. And just a thought about the fact that we've got all these class leaders in the top positions. You've been saying it's the cream rising to the top, but also it's a reflection on the fact that something that I like about endurance racing is they prove that it's not easy. Because if it was easy, and if all the cars were finishing, and if all the cars were being able to do the 24 hours without a problem, then we'd have all the TCRs at the top, all the SP Tourings, all the A3s, and you wouldn't get this nice mix of classes. And that, to me, is a good demonstration that this is an endurance race worth its salt, insofar as it's hard work getting these cars to the finish without a problem.
Another penalty for that dual racing cars were allowed to call it as it came into the pit lane. Phil Quaife out, Sammy Moutran in, and a brand new set. Ramsey Moutran in. My apologies. Bruce did tell me that. Bruce?
Very quick pit stop and applause all round from the Dual Racing garage. As Ramsey got on board, he's just taken the top layer of rubber off as he exits the pit, but I think that was a very good stint from Phil Quaife there, and an excellent job by the crew. So I think they can have a coffee. There must be a tray of hot chocolate coming around from Creventic shortly. I'm back in the pits. I require
sausages and hot chocolate. Thank you, Bruce. That was the 7th set of slick tyres to go on that car, and those Hankooks are perfectly suited for this temperature and weather now, as we've seen by the guys improving their lap times. A 19.6 by Charles Lamb last time around.
Yeah, even though I've not been here for a few minutes, I just stepped out, the computers have continued to work, and they've recorded Phil Quaif's average lap time during that 1 hour long session stint for him, which was 39 laps by Phil. 2 minutes 20.4 was his average lap time, 2:20.4. Charlie Lamb, 2:20.9. So Phil Quaif was actually lapping faster than the race leader, and also, incidentally, needless to say, faster than the 303 Broikers Red Camel car. So really, I mean, you called him his Quaifness, which I rather like that, doing a fantastic job out there.
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce down there in the pit lane. Phil Quaife just very laid back and ready to take a little bit of a rest. I wonder if we'll see him back in the car before the end of the race. He could finish it. Charles Lamb's gap with that pit stop has gone out a little bit. We'll wait for Ivo Bruckers and Ramsey Moutron to come around. But this is still a very, very open race, with the top three separated by only about 10 minutes on the track. A little bit more than that, 12 minutes on the track here at Silverstone. Endurance racing can be so cruel. The 127 car has dropped down to 15th position, but extraordinarily is still third place in TCR. So the fragility that Paul was worried about with the TCR cars has indeed struck everyone bar the leading pair, the 303 and the 1. So
but that's still a better record than in SP Touring, which are supposed to be less fragile. Less fragile.
What's interesting about that is all the SP Touring cars have been turned down quite a lot as well, and that was the hope of Martin Short, that not having to try and run so quickly and having turned the engine power down, that the car would be pretty much bulletproof. Week certainly didn't start off like that, Graham Goodwin.
Yeah, I think we're going to see the 246 car in within the next 20 minutes. We expect Darren Cox to be in that car.
I wouldn't be surprised if Charlie doesn't come in before that.
I think right.
The fuel won't take him 40 minutes, and I think that based on the pace that he's been doing, he'll probably do 38 or at most 39 laps. Now he's currently on his 36, so put him up to 430 laps overall, and that'll be the furthest he'll go. I wouldn't be surprised to see him on lap 428 or 429, maybe 430 at the outside.
I'll be absolutely astounded if Richard Neri doesn't take the flag in that car.
It would be perfectly appropriate that he did it.
Yeah, I'd be looking at that already to work out how to make that happen. I know Richard will want Martin to do it, but Martin, I'm sure, will let Richard do it. Having started the race in last position, it would be absolutely appropriate for him to finish the race to the flag.
It's definitely Darren Cox in the car next. I've heard that the call has gone out to air traffic control to stop all helicopter traffic for the next 37
shiny
laps.
things, no shiny things by the side of the track, please, as Coxey's getting into the car.
Yeah, it's down there. He was preparing the cardigan, and so certainly getting close to the point where we'll see Darren Cox, aka Ricky Bobby, aboard the 246 car.
And Darren will then do a similar stint length to that of Charlie Lamb, and then that will leave one stint for either Martin Short or Richard Neri to finish off the stint, and it just works perfectly. And they'd planned that about 2 hours ago, I reckon, John.
This from Kevin Poulton. The fuel pumps, is there one that the team think is faster than the others? I'll tell you what, Kevin, the smart team managers will have tried every single fuel pump at some stage during the week and timed exactly how much it takes to fill a finite amount, because it's absolutely certain that one of them will fill slightly faster, even if it's a second or a couple than the others.
Refuelling pumps.
Yes, the fuel. Sorry, yes, the petrol pumps.
I thought you'd switched on to talking about WEC fuel meters.
No, absolutely not. Sorry, the refueling pumps down at the petrol station. So, in answer to the question, there will be, and the teams will know it. There's no point in waiting for it because it won't make that much difference. But if your pump of choice, either petrol or diesel, that you know because you've timed during the week is available, then you'll take it. If not, there's no point in queuing and waiting behind it because you'll lose more time than you'll save.
But what makes more difference is being economical with the fuel and having to put less in.
Oh, yes.
Makes far more difference, and that's why we noticed it more than halfway through the race that the Roll Centre BMW, the ABBA car, was making very much more of its fuel than the 127 car was.
I thought the tactics during the night in the wet, in fact, I think the tactics all the way through the race have been exemplary from the Roll Centre car.
This is the car that had the heavy front-end damage overnight, of course.
Ambient temperature, I reckon. Ambient temperature is the culprit.
Yeah, this is behind the wheel, Andrew Hack on that car as Intersport head for fuel. Andrew's pulled the car up and the steam, well, that is, I think Paul's nailed that. I think that's more... Oh, and there's an incident out on the circuit, contact with the car losing part. It's the D1 leader, and one of the Ultron Peugeots was right there as well, as flags were coming out. And was that sliding on some oil at Stowe?
I suspect so.
But there's bodywork gone in the air from the D1 leader, fourth of the cars in this little pack, coming towards us now through club. There it is.
It's the front valance.
And the front valance has gone. Part of the front valance has gone. There's been contact there with 3 hours and 34 minutes to go.
Leader in the pits, meanwhile, the 246 car down pit lane as we watch the D1 leader making its way down the Hanger Straight.
Well, they'll need one more pit stop after this. Can't go to the end from here.
That was 39 laps for Charlie Lamb.
So right on the money.
So, well, even further than Richard Neary went. So, and an average lap time of quicker than Richard Neary went, although that includes some purple flag work at the beginning of Neary's stint. But it was a really very good overall lap there, overall stint from Charlie Lamb. And even though that was the only stint that he'll play in the race, it was a very successful stint.
Except for a penalty, which he's soaking up now.
Might not be his.
True. Well, this is another long penalty. This looks like another minute's worth of penalty as they're waiting for the 208 to come in as well. Cherry Blaze in the car at the moment. Looks like Sarah Bovey's ready to get into that car. Here comes the 246 leading car. 3:32 to go. One more pit stop after this. That's Shorty getting in, isn't it?
It does look like Shorty's helmet. It's not Darren Cox's helmet, is it?
No, that's Shorty's helmet, unless
Darren's got a very similar looking colour to the helmet.
Or borrowed one.
No, we'll soon find out. It may be that Coxie said, what, you want me to drive it while it's in the lead? Are you mad? Off you go, you two.
I spoke to Coxie about 40 minutes ago and he thought he was getting in next. It didn't quite look like Shorty's helmet, that, but it's very similar colours, so it could have very easily been Darren Cox. The 208, meanwhile...
Also getting a penalty.
Also getting a penalty on its way down to its date with Sarah Boovy.
Paul, have you got any note of what these penalties are for?
No.
Right.
No, I did ask the question before the race, and I wasn't able to find a good source for the information, so we don't have it.
Okay.
So 208 makes its way down to its pit stall, where the driver change is ready. And being undertaken...
Cherry out, Sarah helping.
Yeah, and being undertaken in spirited fashion. We like to see that, don't we? Drivers being dragged bodily out of a car, dumped onto the tarmac.
It's not nice.
It's a bit like a mafia hit, really, isn't it?
It's not nice at all. As somebody said to me, what else do you think those epaulets are for? So give yourself a hernia.
I thought it was your gloves, your driving gloves.
I said, give yourself a hernia. You're trying to pull me out of here, son. You might want to let me do this in my own time.
Need help. Yeah. Let's get the flatbed.
Right, very quick stop by the Peugeot team. They have comprehensively beaten the guys down at Roll Centre. They came in much later. So we'll confirm in a moment who's got into the leading car, but it's still Roll Centre leading. That was a very quick driver change by the old transfer.
It was a very, very impressive change all round, and that's the sad sight of, I think, the end of the 130 cars campaign here.
It's Andrew Hack walking away.
Code 60.
And the purple flag being shown, John, yes.
Oh!
In order to remove that car, Andrew Hack's car, number 130.
Well, that will help the lead car. Just marginally, but it will.
Well, it doesn't hinder them, shall we say.
Yeah.
They can put full fuel in because they got into the pit lane whilst they were under green, so it doesn't hinder their hope for just one more pit stop. Ivo Brukers doesn't get an advantage because they're not close enough to be able to pit and go to the end and take their last pit stop now. The car cannot drive into the garage under its own steam. There is your race leader coming out of the fuel station at pit out, and it is Who behind the wheel of that car. It normally takes to the timing line before we find out. Ivo Brukers in the pit lane. Splash of fuel here, gents.
I think that's exactly it. I think he's going to go for the 2 hours for fuel here. It's Martin Short has gone back out.
Yeah, it was Shorty's helmet. There's no doubt in my mind there.
But it means at least that they share out the driving between the three of them, and it is, of the leading group of cars, the only one that is being driven by just 3 drivers. So, in a sense, perhaps what they're just trying to do is to ensure that driver fatigue is not an issue either. Because remember, Martin Short and Richard Neary have been up all night driving the car at unspeakable speeds through unspeakable conditions, and yet Martin is now back in the car again.
Yeah, this is what we've seen the deployment of the safety car for, not to slow the field down. That's Bernard Cottrell, our race director from BRSCC.
BRSCC, yes.
Yes.
Not the first time at Silverstone we've seen a Mercedes in control of the race, of course.
No, indeed not.
It is indeed Martin Short out in the lead car, the 246 car. 432 laps completed now by the leader.
In fact, I'm just looking, the Mike Nash car still going in 32nd position. And there's a couple of cars, certainly one car further up from them that is not going to do any more laps, that being the 127. But I reckon still we've got at least 30 cars of the 41 that started running, which in a touring car 24-hour, I think is pretty decent.
Martin Short, meanwhile, continues on his way towards a fine result. Well, they'll be hoping at the end of this 24 hours.
I've got a feeling next year we're going to see something in the region of 65 or 70 cars for this. I really do, because I think this has caught the attention of people, certainly just looking at not just the social media, but the personal messages that are coming in.
Now, there will be those that don't know much about Martin Short, I'm sure, and Roll Centre Racing.
Surely not.
I'm sure there will be, because endurance racing has been attracting new fans by...
What would you say was Martin Short's greatest achievement?
Well, it's not keeping his hair, that's for sure.
No, seriously now, come on.
4th at Le Mans. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the best privateer performances at Le Mans 24 Hours in history.
Paul?
If you would have asked his greatest result, I'd have agreed with Graham. Your question was carefully worded.
It was.
Because it was his greatest achievement.
Yeah.
And I would say actually being here after the career that he's had.
Yeah.
Not being here per se, because being here is just a matter of showing up. He's being overtaken by lots of things, isn't he?
He's just taking it easy.
Yeah, quite. Just making sure the purple flags have gone all the way around the circuit.
That was the car that he overtook last time and got the penalty. So hang on, I've got a muscle memory for that.
But no, I think keeping his career going, keeping his involvement in motorsport and in a trade, because he does make money from doing things other than motor racing in order that he can go motor racing. I remember commentating on Martin Short when he raced in Formula First. He started racing in Formula First.
I think he's still got the car.
He has.
Yeah.
First racing, from memory, was low cost. It was a low cost kit car. I think was his first racing.
He's got quite a lot of his
I think it was Formula First.
older cars.
It wasn't a low cost, but it was something similar.
It was a kit car, wasn't it?
I'm going to throw in...
yes, go on.
I'm going to throw in Discovering Joao Barbosa.
That's a good one.
Good grief, yes, absolutely. But went from the early days of his career into one-make racing with Rovers, and then into GT racing with the self-built and long-remembered TVR Cerbera Speed 6, which he showed with Rob Barth back in the early days of their exploits in British GT. Was the second customer, I think, for the TVR Tuscan R. And after that, we just had a cornucopia of good stuff going from Roll Centre. Gave the race debut for the Noble Mark in British GT with, again, Simon Pullen. And oddly enough, one of his previous drivers came up in conversation, Fanny Dechateau, who I've not heard of for a long... Fanny Two Houses, as she was known.
Yeah.
In British GT racing for quite a while, and then of course the Moseley years, and racing the Moseley around the world at Bathurst, at Daytona, before we got into LMPs.
Joao Barbosa, Vanina X.
Absolutely. Rob Barth, Patrick Pearce.
And he has got quite a lot of interesting vehicles.
Well, the two Delaras, for starters, one of which is now racing in historic racing elsewhere. That's the 130 car makes its way back, possibly for the final time, to the pit lane on the back of the flatbed. And then after that, of course, the Pescarolo.
He kept Pierre Caffer's career going for a little while as well. You remember he had Pierre Caffer driving for him. You're doubting me now. I'm pretty sure he had Pierre in the car at one of his...
I'm trying to remember Pierre in the car. I mean, Michael Crum being in the car. Because that was actually marked, bizarrely, Nissan's return to LMP racing very briefly in the back of the Dallara. Not a successful return on that occasion. But,
I mean, the point being...
he bought the Moseley Mark and brought it into racing, because it was a sort of a kit car, road car sort of thing. I've seen a really bizarre early one that he's got that I think is one of one.
There's one part of the Martin Short story which could have kept him in racing for a period where we didn't hear more of him, and that, I'm afraid, ended with the end of the Lola Mark, because Martin actually had an agreement, had a licence to produce a Bentley GT3 car back in the day, and it was the end of Lola that actually saw the end of that project. But before the M Sport project, ask him about it, and he's got the paperwork, and it could well have been a Roll Centre and Lola designed and built Bentley Continental GT3 that was that the start of that return.
Completely immersed in motorsport, the Short household.
I mean, the famous kitchen table.
The complete variety, the complete spectrum that you've just described in the last 5 minutes kind of illustrates the point. You know, he's always been doing something which has kept him involved in the sport.
And often, it has to be said, involving some very talented British drivers, the likes of Charlie Hollings, kept in the sport, I believe, there. Simon Pullen, who's now sadly no longer with the sport, but showed some fantastic stuff. Rob Barth, too, with some great runs for the team. And yeah, he's been a big part of the Daily Sports Car story, I can tell you that for nothing.
And still the best ever April Fool.
What the
flying TVR.
The flying TVR. Look for TVR Tuscan R Dingledale and you'll see what we mean. That was a classic April Fool's undertaken by Marcus Potts for DSC, and almost resulted in Martin sacking Simon Pullen on the spot.
Let's go down to Bruce Jones in the afternoon sunshine here at Silverstone.
We got a good team. The car's good. The team's great. We weren't flat out fastest, but that was our plan. But we just had some hideous luck. But I mean, on my first 24-hour, we won a diesel class. You know, you can't come back every year and win it.
No, you used it all up. But what are your thoughts on the Touring Car Endurance Series? Obviously, this is the first ever round, touring cars only.
Touring cars only, I think it's great. It'd be nice to see a few more cars out there. I think it's a great spectacle for people. People can relate more to these cars than anything else. I always say saloon cars is the best racing out there. And Creventic, well, fair play. What a superb championship.
Jeff Doughty says, as far as I know, Jeff Doughty says, as far as I know, Shorty is the only race winner in an SR9 Radical. Add that to his CV. Not sure
only race winner? Roll Centre would be, not just Shorty.
Right. How long has Shorty been in the car, Paul?
Not very long.
Just turn round.
Sorry, in total. Total. Can you...
well, while you're doing that, just to talk about just what Paul's finding that figure, about the relative pace of the cars. We've got the top 33 cars on the screen in front of us, John. Only 5 of them have a fastest lap outside 10.5 seconds from the leader's fastest lap. That's pretty close to a lap this long. So you're absolutely right. It's giving everybody room to push and room to actually race. And that's all you want in a race, whether it's got 10, 20, 30, 40 cars or more.
Martin Short hasn't been at the wheel as long as Richard Neary, not surprisingly. Martin's done 7 hours and 45 minutes. Richard Neary has done 9 hours and 7 minutes. Charlie Lamb did an hour and a half, or an hour and 32, and Dickie Bobby, Darren Cox did an hour and 16 minutes thus far.
Now, 2 signatures for that.
2 signatures.
Before anybody writes in and complains, those times exclude all time in the pits.
Yeah.
Now, those times in the pits are included in the Creventic scoring if you stay in the car, but this system excludes them.
Yeah, understood. So let's look back at some of the highlights of this morning as we count down towards the end of this Hankook Silverstone 24 hours, with exactly 3 hours to go to the checkered flag being waved right in front of us. The Shorty fact from Jeff Doughty was Shorty in the car at a club race in the Walter Hayes Trophy
Absolutely
weekend.
Correct. He did.
He gave everyone a full lap and still won the race in a SR9.
He did, because I think he raced the Dallara in that race a couple of years before. You're absolutely right, Jeff. I'd completely forgotten about that.
I think I was there for that. I'd done the Porsche Carrera Cup Awards at Whittlebury the night before, and Tim Harvey and I, co-commentator of mine at ITV, had walked around the paddock, and Tim found his old Formula Ford and looked at it and went, why did I ever race that? And then probably went out and bought one and started competing again because he got the bug at the Hayes. Yeah, great event that here at Silverstone, coming later on in the summer. Normally a week or two after the Formula Ford Festival at Brands Hatch. Don't forget the next race for these guys are at Zandvoort, and that is the same weekend as the WEC are at Spa. So sadly Graham and I can't be there. So Martin Short then at the wheel of the leading car, and just confirmed by Jeff Doughty is the man who won a club race at the Walter Hayes Trophy in that SR9 Radical, having given everyone a full lap as a head start.
Before we forget his history, by the way, there's another couple of little oddities. His original first start at Le Mans, should have been in a Ferrari, but that Ferrari was shunted in the Porsche curves in qualifying, I seem to remember. I think it was Sam Hancock shunted that car.
I was just about to say, do you remember who it was?
Yes, I do, yeah. And the other one was he was supposed to race a Morgan at Le Mans, but didn't, because that entry was refused, as I remember. And beyond that, I don't either forget, if you have a quick look at a Google Roll Centre and Mini Harvey Deeth for the most bonkers thing on four wheels you'll ever see.
I remember that was on a raised table when they were building it that was about 2'6" off the ground, and it was still not as tall as I was when I stood next to it.
Was that a motorbike engine, or was that a Radical V8 engine in that car?
I think it was a Radical engine in it.
And also a
mid-engine, wasn't it?
Yeah, special Mosler for Super GT. Super GT spec Mosler with a completely different chassis. So never stood still, always something under discussion.
Big family man, of course.
Absolutely. The boys are here with Michelle.
And the boys are called?
Morgan.
Max.
It's another car name.
It's not Trevor, I can tell you that. Morgan.
And he has one of each, Martin, to go with the boys. I'm going to leave you with that. It's going to kill you, isn't it?
It's going to kill me now.
Michelle's wife, having never been to Sunderland in her life, has been a lifelong Sunderland supporter. And the fact the first time she went to Sunderland for the football, she came with us and Martin came along. I think we played Tottenham Hotspur.
I can remember that. I remember they doing that. I remember the photographs on Facebook of that trip.
Shorty actually got excited about football. It's very funny. Very funny. Smashing guy, motorsport, eats, sleeps and breathes motorsport. And it's interesting that you've just said that, people that wouldn't know Martin, of course we do because we're around the industry, but you just go through there a few of the things that he's done and you realise, and he's not unique in that, guys, is he? There are other characters like Martin around the British scene who have done very well nicely at the national and international level, who most motorsport fans wouldn't be able to pick out of a lineup.
Absolutely right. Shouldn't forget, by the way, we're talking about the achievements of the team. This is a British GT Championship, not with Martin at the wheel for the full year, but with Tom Herridge.
The other thing that many people don't know about him is where he was born.
Oh, Cyprus.
No, but you're on the right idea.
Germany.
It was on an RAF base in Libya.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
He's Libyan.
He was born at RAF El Adem. Adem.
I knew his dad was RAF.
And his sons are Morgan and Marcus. And he has one of each. Tom Herridge works with one of our listeners, Neil Gardner. More interested than bikes these days, but has some great stories about Shorty.
Certainly does.
Right, okay.
But then doesn't everybody?
No. Indeed so. I just realised that one of the few things I've got in common with Shorty is the fact that we both raced 216 GTI Rover Challenge cars.
He raced it in period though, John.
Yes. I tell you what, the one that I raced was in such good nick, I think it was probably better than in its early days. Cracking piece of kit. Particularly in the wet, the way it channels the spray from the back of the car. Oh, and off has gone the 212. And this is first in A2. Once again, the A2 class leader involved in an issue. This is at the Beckett's complex. It's a quick spin and resume. There was another car in close quarters. This car is 11th position overall, and with one more slip up from a car ahead, it will mean we've got all the class leaders in the top 10. They're in the top 11 at the moment. A very, very nice piece of recovery from Niels Nybo.
Well, the VDS car is very... Oh, and the Team Brit car nearly held it, but didn't.
Get on the throttle, lock the wheels instead of getting on the right pedal, but gets away with it at the entrance to Hanger Straight through Chapel.
That's Mark Allen. Well done, sir.
And Martin Short, we've decided probably will go over to Richard Neary. And Martin, according to my proposed little schedule for them, will be coming in around about lap 469. So he's got another 16 laps to go for Martin. Really, all that is important is that he gets over the top of the hour so that Richard can do less than 2 hours. And Martin is just coming up to the first to the completion of his hour, so by the top of the hour he'll been driving for about an hour and a half, so around about 38 laps each will work nicely for the race leading car number 246, and that will take them up to around about a 506 lap total in the 24 hours, but as I say, quite how that will pan out, we have to wait and see. Evo, having done that 2 minutes 27, back again, right in the mix again with a 2:22 that time. So it's almost as if he had a 2:27 on lap 439, and then he had a 2:27 on lap 449. So every 10 laps he has a slow one.
It's
work that one out.
It has been a mark of that car, though, not just Evo driving it. The consistency just has not been there as the other guys in. And in some ways, actually, fair play to them for being so far up the field, having not been able to have that consistency, because they are in second place at the moment.
Absolutely right. And in terms of the length of time that they've spent in the pits, 2.5 minutes less spent in the pits by the 303 than by the 246.
Wow.
And all of that is but nothing, because 10 minutes less spent by the dual racing car than either of the two cars in first and second places.
Martin Short leads by 8.5 minutes. Class leader in second is Ivo Briekers in the 303 Seat. Class leader in fourth, Sarah Bovey in the 208 A3 Peugeot. Class leader in fifth, Wim Mulders in the 198 BMW in the D1. There was a little shake of the head there, Bruce, that didn't go perfectly.
The head went down the arm, she's sort of, and that just shows, even though she's done her stint, has probably done it absolutely excellently, that's annoyed her. That was probably 2 or 3 seconds that were a little bit scuppered there, but sign of a good driver to me.
Yeah, I agree there. A very, very close moment for Ramsey Moutran. I haven't seen Martin Short for a while at the head of the field, but he's hitting the 221 button and just going round, which means his fuel consumption will be good.
And that opens up the window for the driver change when it needs to happen. And as I say, the suggestion I had was lap 469, so he still has another 10 laps in the bank, so to speak.
It's about to put another lap on the 303.
Which is second place. He's got 45 minutes if he needs it in terms of his driver time. I don't think he's got that much fuel, if I'm honest. I think he'll probably go to somewhere, 10 past the hour, something like that, Paul, getting on for quarter past the hour.
Yes, yeah, I think it'll be something like 10 past, but I don't know whether they'll time it or whether they'll do it based on number of laps. It depends how the team works. I tend to work on number of laps because you know where you are at the end of a certain lap. Whether you're doing it on time, you say, well, is it 10 past yet? Or no, now it's, and all of a sudden it's quarter past because you missed 12 minutes past. And so just count down the number of laps, and then you can give the driver his countdown and say, right, you're coming in on lap 469, and then that gives Richard Neary around about 38 laps to take it to the end of the race.
Car still looking very, very sharp indeed. A filthy night, but the advantage of having Dayglow green paint is that it still stands out in the sunshine that we have now. 2 hours and 12 minutes still to go at Silverstone.
So through and still the lead. Martin Short aboard the number 246. Team up with Roll Centre Racing BMW. Via engined M3. And some 9 minutes to the good now ahead of Eva Breukers. 224.1 last time around for the BMW. And managing that gap now to the point where we get towards our final driver change.
on the track, we've got the interesting situation where Ramsey Moutran is following Ivo Breukers, not by so far. It's about less than 20 seconds between the two of them, not for the position, but to get back onto being just one lap behind. And then, as you mentioned, the pair of them Martin Short is closing in on the pair of them. So the three of them are kind of concertinaing. They're all in Sector 2 at the moment, and then they'll come out of Sector 2, but they're in the right order so that they're getting closer and closer to one another, which, I say, is not changes for position, but it's an interesting measure of how much quicker Short is than Breukers, and also that Ramsey is quicker than Breukers, and whether or not Ramsey is going to actually close the gap between himself and Martin Short, which I don't think he will, although on that last lap Martin was a little bit slower due to traffic. The last 2 or 3 laps Ivo has been just as quick as Ramsey Moutran, if not a little bit quicker, so that's why I think that perhaps this is all in hand, and Ivo is just controlling the pace. The car, perhaps or perhaps not, with some kind of problem, but certainly is only being driven as fast as it needs to be driven. I'll put it that way.
I think that's right. There certainly doesn't appear to be much of a full fronted attack at the moment, does there? Other than Ramsey Moutran, I think, is pedalling probably closer to his upper envelope. The other two guys are
slightly over enthusiastic driving, and the Seat. This is the
Wolf.
The Wolf car.
It's the Wolf.
Has a... Is that a left rear issue, or is it an engine? I think that's an engine issue.
Might well be an engine issue. The tyres are all up. So what is that?
That is engine smoke, I'm afraid. I thought it was a rubbing tyre for a moment, and I'm still not convinced.
Well, it's farther under the not good. At the moment, engine smoke has stopped.
So either engine has run out of... Yeah, there's a bit of burned...
Yes.
It's the Sub-Zero Wolf car, a bit of burned engine oil around the right rear of that car. He's turbo problems with that car earlier on, Bruce reminds me. And that will be a pit caller in a moment's time. He's just coming through Luffield and will, I'm sure, stay to the right-hand side of the track, Graham.
23rd position at the moment for that car, and 9th in the A3 class. But it doesn't have the air of a work at the moment, does it?
Happening on the uphill part of the track towards the end of the lap, rather than on the downhill part of the track at the beginning of the lap, because if it happens on the downhill bit, you end up with no power for the uphill bit that brings you back home again, whereas at least that was able to get Paul Smith home. Has all the hand controls, or doesn't have all the hand controls, depending who's driving it. So the pedals, they leave where they are, but the hand controls kind of come and go with the steering wheel. So by now the steering wheel has been taken on and put off, and put on and taken off a number of times through the race. So there may be some movement there, some wear there, but certainly, yeah, the driver, whoever it was at the wheel, was kind of pushing and tapping at areas of the steering wheel which seemed to indicate some kind of problem was going on.
That is the racing driver excuse of all excuses. I had one of those, but the wheel came off in my hand.
It's happened more than once, hasn't it?
Yeah. As Ivo Breukers as well, out of the car for Dad, son about to get in. Sponsored...
what happened here?
Blue and white. He had a bit of a whoopsie at Vale, and coming back on, he just had to wait for everybody, including the leader, to go through. And that was actually pretty smart driving there, that he didn't just...
Awareness, yes.
Yeah. He made the mistake in the first place. I think he was probably realised he was being caught by faster cars, went in too deep to the left-hander at Vale, ran wide, and basically was off the circuit towards the apex of Club. Not sure who it was. I was on at that time, and I have to say... I can't remember now, it's all blended into one.
Well, I remember Joe saying that we were going particularly well at that stage, and this guy was, you know, I had a full ding-dong with him. Well, I think we were staying top 3 or 4 times at that point. And we were trading places for about 10 laps, and the guy was absolutely on it. I don't know who it was, but I'd like to shake his hand.
If he's listening, and he were having a battle with the black 154 BMW in the early hours of the morning, make yourself known.
Excellent stuff again, and again, Barwell Motorsport supporting 24-hour racing in the UK and doing it your way and doing it very well indeed.
Do you count Shorty as one of your customers now, seeing as though you've sold him a car?
I don't think he'd admit to that. He's nicked my bloody green though. Look, that was our Team Russia colour for the last 2 years, and he said, Lemsky, we really like that. We're going to have that off of you.
He's got one of your Z4s.
Yeah, he had the old the Team Russia. I say old, it was a fresh chassis, but the Team Russia Z4 from us, which he'll be running in British GT this year. So
against you,
against us, yeah.
It's going to be good.
You back next year for this? Making plans already?
I think the guys probably will want to do it. We'll obviously, I know what Mark will say. He'll say, right, what can we come back and win it in?
Yeah.
And
I think there's a few people saying that up and down the pit lane, funny enough.
That's a nice sort of customer to have.
Well, you know, we're all on the same page. Mark's been brilliant. He's supported us massively with our Lamborghini programme, and you know, we're all very passionate about motorsport, as you well know. And it's not just the Blancpain stuff. You know, this has been brilliant. We've had a brilliant time. You can imagine what Osborne's been like on the radio.
It's probably just as well we haven't heard some of it.
It's well, funny enough, I come in for a lot of stick, but
really,
yeah,
that's staggering. The level of disrespect. I'm amazed. You brought him up from a young lad through the. I mean, and he still doesn't show you respect.
No,
that doesn't sound like Joe Osborne to me. I think
disgusting,
that's just Mark.
isn't it?
It's absolutely outrageous.
I'll make sure he has all the worst tyres at Blancpain.
Mark Lemmer, thanks very much for joining us. Good luck for the rest of the race, mate. 6th position at the moment, leading your lap. 5 laps between you and the guys ahead. Not that much between you and the guys behind. 6th position, you'd be happy with that if the flag fell down?
I said to Mark before the race, I said, you know, obviously win the class and 5th overall, top 5 overall.
And Martin Short, meanwhile, is making fuel in the BMW 246. We said at one point during the race that that car had good fuel economy. Well, it came at the expense of longer fuel stops. Well, they're going to have to do a very long fuel stop to get the car through to the finish. But Martin's he's on his 44th lap. Now, the longest that car has been up until now on a tank full of fuel is 41 laps. Yes, 41 laps, and as I say, he is currently on his 44th lap. So he's kind of stealing laps away from Richard Neary. Richard will be able to get to the flag. I mean, whilst Martin is doing all these lap scores, and making life increasingly easy for Richard to be able to get to the flag on what he's going to be able to get into the tank, and really just stroking it home to the finish.
In the pit lane, the leader, Martin Short, for what should be penalty. The last time, and another penalty for one of the leading cars.
And I can see which driver is getting ready for
10.
this.
Into Bruce Jones, who's down there. Bruce?
Yeah, who's the man in the black suit? Is that? It's Ricky Bobby.
No way.
Darren Cox. I think he's standing there hoping he'll be allowed. Oh, he's nipped in. Martin's been pulled out. He's jumped in. No one's noticed. It's all right. Yeah, so Darren climbing on board. Martin surely has had enough. He'll take his helmet off now. But, wow, a lot of heat from those rear brakes being beautifully caught by Sebastian with the camera there. But, yeah, Darren Cox racing as Richard Roberts this weekend on board. Well, he's had limited time in the car. Now the track's in absolutely fantastic condition. The car looks in tip-top shape as well, one of the few that's come through the night, and we do have to keep repeating. This car started with Richard Neary 41st and last on the grid, and his opening stint was phenomenal. He was overtaking cars left, right and centre. The number 1 is still on the side of the car in the orange lights, still in the lead of the race, but will there be one more driver change? I don't know, but it does seem that, of course, Charles Lamb and Darren Cox have had limited time in the car, and the monster sessions have been done by Richard Neary and Martin Short. But back on the deck is the 246 ABBA Commercials Roll Centre Racing BMW. It's fired up. This is a car that's won here before, and Darren eases it away. No flamboyant exit, but up the pit lane he goes.
Thank you, Bruce.
Well, that's a surprise.
Let's see how long Darren's in the car, because I felt for sure Richard Neary would be allowed to finish the car that he started at the back of the grid, but we'll see. Darren is a very safe pair of hands. I've seen him race before, funny enough in Seats. Shared a track with him at Donington Park in very, very bad weather, and he kept the Seat on the black stuff very well indeed. A Seat that was misbehaving somewhat with a throttle that was somewhat recalcitrant, which was not a very nice car to drive, and he did a very good job at keeping that car on the black stuff. So potentially the last stop for our leading car, last necessary stop at least.
Exactly, it has enough fuel economy to get it back to the flag and enough driver time to get it back to the flag. So exactly rightly expressed, John.
Well, the leader has been and gone in the pit lane. Martin Short is out, and Darren Cox is in the car for fuel at the moment at the end of the pit lane. The SP Touring and overall leader will not have to stop again. It's not required to stop again in terms of driver time or fuel. So we expected Richard Neri to get back in that car.
Gentlemen, is this possibly the least expected motorsport headline of 2016? Darren Cox leads a major 24-hour race. And I'm not kidding.
I think that the guys at Roll Centre came here expecting to be competitive.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it.
I don't think, you know, adding the team. Darren is the new boy in that team. The rest of the team have raced together before.
When was he actually put in the car? I mean, when did he know he was going to be driving it? I mean, I'm not trying to pry. I don't
quite some time ago.
He thought he was getting in the car when Martin got in for that last stint.
No. I mean, when the deal was done for Darren to drive. So he's
a wee while ago.
Right. Okay.
It's not like he was parachuted in yesterday.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to kind of work out what's happened.
Let's go down to the pit lane. Martin Short is out of the lead car, which is just getting its last load of fuel. Maybe we can ask, or at least get some of the answers to those questions as Coxey is about to take that car back out. Bruce.
Martin, just over an hour and a half to go. Is that really the end of you in the car? You and Richard seem to have driven that since about Thursday.
When Richard got out of the car the last time, we realised I hadn't actually seen him since about 6:45 last night. We're done, and we've put Darren Cox in for the run to the line. So that's our last stop.
Now, at the start of the meeting, you were chewing up drive shafts left, right and centre, yet you start at the back of the grid, 41st position, here you are in the lead. I don't want to say it, but the car's been running really, really well.
Thanks, Bruce.
So far.
Isn't that called the commentator's curse?
No, I'm downstairs. They do it upstairs.
Okay. Yeah, no, the car, I was just driving it just now. I mean, we were in fuel-saving mode there to make sure that we got enough fuel to go to the end. And the car's running absolutely beautifully. It's running as good at the moment as it did when we started the race.
Now, conditions, I think after one of your stints in the night, you said that was one of the nastiest stints you've had to do, but both you and Richard Neri have driven more than 9 hours apiece in the car. How are you guys feeling?
Remarkably chipper. After the second stint, I was completely wasted and really tired, but third stint, just everything perked up, and I've just been getting brighter and livelier since, so I can't explain it, but I guess it's adrenaline.
Now, clearly you're a team right on top of the car. You've had it for how many years have you had it, and how often do you have it out there?
We've had it, I think, for a year and a half. We did, I don't know, probably 12, 14 races with it last year in various places, Supercar Challenge, Brick Car, and with quite a lot of success with it. And this is its first outing since last November.
Well, that speaks volumes. I mean, externally it looks beautiful. Clearly under the skin, not a bad little beast either.
That's nice of you to say so, Bruce.
It's a family show, Martin.
Well, the other thing I was thinking when I was driving around was the car looks immaculate. You know, and you know what these events are like. They're normally, I followed a Seat round with its bumper hanging off, and you know, there's various walking wounded, and I was thinking, well, the car looks great. So just got everything crossed now, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Martin, go and take a rest. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the car did the Oh, problem for the Team Brit Golf, as David Pittard seems to have been in that car for the majority of the time. He's done a very good job getting that car back.
You know, they're more demanding now, just like a woman.
Thanks, Jelly. We'll leave it at that one.
It's Joe Bradley down in the pit lane. I left a gap there rather than say anything that could potentially get me into trouble. Darren Cox leads the Hankook 24 Hours of Silverstone for ABBA Commercials with Roll Centre Racing. I know he's not listening now, so I'll say this. It's all on his shoulders, so if it goes wrong now, it's all his fault. Everything.
It's all down to him.
DC being given the honour of bringing the car home. His last lap of 2:33. That's not so bad. He can keep it going at that. He's just got to keep it on the island.
Absolutely.
And I've got no doubt he will do.
Not Cox it up.
Really needed to be in the WEC racing car. There was 3 other family Cox members. I don't think they're relatives, but that would have been the Coxed 4 then at that point.
I think Graham said that at one point, or somebody did. Yeah, the 2:33 was actually slower than his first flying lap. He did a 2:29 on his first flying lap, and possibly came across a bit of traffic on his next one, and as I say, a little bit more circumspect with the 2:33.6. So that's perfectly adequate, and I mean, it must actually be quite difficult when you've not driven the car since, what was it, about 6
Saturday.
o'clock? Well, yes, yeah, that's right. 6 o'clock yesterday evening he got into the car, got out of it at 7:15, and here they are asking him at just with an hour and a half to go to get back in it again, and it probably doesn't even feel like the same car after it's been subjected to short and neary over the night and through all that rain and all the rubbish that we had. So it is a responsibility, but I'm sure Darren's up to the task, and as I say, he has a 2-lap cushion, which equates to something like 7 minutes of the track between him and Rick Boykers, which is also a nervous team. So there's still over an hour to go, and that's plenty time enough for all sorts of things to go wrong. Nabil Moutran not matching the times of either Phil Quaife or Ramsey Moutran, who have been out in the car already.
Just watching the pace of the leading car, 2:29 again last time through for man on timing scoring. If you're just watching on timing scoring, there's Richard Roberts in the Royal Centre car. If you're confused by that, that is actually Darren Cox. I guess that Darren Cox. Richard Roberts being a bit of an in-joke, Ricky Bobby. But I think the problem Darren's got, he's not done much with computer games. That's the problem for Darren there. I think just with a bit more practice.
I've seen him on them, he's hopeless.
2:26 now, so picking up time. Maybe if you put down that Game Boy in the cockpit, you get another couple of seconds out of it.
No, this is... I think he'll do fine.
He'll be fine.
All the joking apart.
Now he's been through the first 2 laps, he'll have got his head in the right place, and I absolutely agree.
Well, we wondered what the final roll of the dice and the drama might be. How about a spot of rain?
Oh, dearie me.
1 or 2 of our camera operators just reporting the odd spit and spot, and it is visible on the windscreen of the Team Ultran Peugeot 208. Is this the final throw of the dice? It's getting worse, coming from the Beckett area.
It's proper rain now. And it's by not just what we're seeing on the windscreen of some of the cars here, John, but the Hardy Marshall on the start line, not just the HUD up, but he's done his zip up too. That's proper rain.
26.2 from Darren Cox last time around. That's spot on where he needs to be. Very good stuff, DC. Where is Darren Cox on the circuit? He's in
Sector 2.
Sector 2 at the moment, in that bright green and black BMW.
Surprising news from Paul Trustwell, because I think we were talking earlier, Paul, about just clearing or not 500 laps. You've done a recalculation?
I've done a recalculation. Well, now Darren Cox is in the leading car, you see. I've had to reset all the averages, and I reckon he's going to get up to about 511, depending how the weather turns. possibly 512. But certainly getting into the 500 and somethings rather than barely clearing 500. So such has been the pace in the dry weather, and the fact that the last of the code 60s was 2 hours ago, just over 2 hours ago, and let's hope for another hour of clear green flag running. Shouldn't say that, but let's at least hope so, because it keeps everything else simple.
Darren would be quite happy if the next hour and 5 minutes were run at code 60, I'm sure.
Well, we do have one or two cars that are going to have to stop for splash and dashes. So the trouble with having a code 60 now is that they'll all come in for the splash and dash at the same time. And all be messy. Whereas those who have to make the splash and dashes, I would far rather. It's far cleaner if they come in and choose when they want to do it, rather than doing it based on what happens to the track conditions.
Yeah.
Another 2:26 for the leader. Darren Cox at the moment at the wheel of the 246 car, and losing a bit of time, but nothing critical against the chasing 303 car. 3 laps to the good, 6.5 minutes is the gap. There's Darren on screen now, going past the wing and past a slow running BMW. Is that the 235?
Yeah, that.
No, it's not. It's not. That's 71. That's the 71 car.
Yeah, that is Derek Bennett in the 6th place A3 car, with the sort of motorsport swoosh across the side of the car and the V on the bonnet. This is the Court Oyster racing machine, and that car is not up to speed at all.
I think that's the car that Mark Lembo was talking about. Was it this one, or was it the 168, the blue and white car? I'm guessing it was the 168 car he was saying was being pedalled very quickly indeed overnight.
Carl Swift is in that at the moment, by name and nature. Was it he in the night who was doing such a great job that the legend that is Mark Lemski, driven just about everything in British national racing, hasn't he? Right up to British touring cars and GTs. Our 5th class leader of the 5, leading the whole shebang, is the 246 team ABBA Commercials with Roll Centre Racing. And as we go to the last hour, let's remind you of a few of the more recent highlights from the 24 hours of Silverstone, powered by Hankook. Talking about particularly anyone who's won, but someone who's shown the spirit of the race. Graham?
If I had to go for an individual, I'd say Richard Neary, without a doubt. That run at the beginning of the race was fantastic, but the whole way in which the 246 crew have approached this race has been just brilliant. Loved it, absolutely loved every moment of it.
I have a suspicion that Kreventnik might get a few votes from the viewers and listeners. Paul? As would the marshals.
I was trying not to say the 246 car because I had a feeling that Graham might.
So, ladies and gents, 2:24.8 for Darren Cox last time around. I think is his fastest lap since he got in the car. As he has settled himself into the pace, as I had every confidence he would.
He did a 2:24.2 on the lap before.
Oh, did
John?
he?
Yeah, he did a 2:24.8, as you say, on that last one. A 2:24.2 has been his best since getting into the car.
He's been in the car 41 minutes. He's got 50 minutes to go. Just got to do it all again. Hit your marks, turn in, hit the apex, hit your exit point. That's all you've got to do.
And if the rain continues to stay away, he'll get to 512 laps at this rate. So if he's counting down laps, that's the mark he's going to hit. He'll lose. He'll come through with about. He either has to lose 2 minutes, or he'll just come through a little bit slower on the last one and do the 512 laps. So I don't think he'll lose two minutes somehow.
Somewhat short of the distance record. 574
was required. Yes.
Maybe a slight error of judgment on them that they didn't put the noise reducing cap on both cars, only on the 205. Cost them 35 minutes. 35 minutes being what?
Would have put them third at this point in the race.
Yeah.
Just.
Yeah.
But that doesn't take into account that the 3 cars ahead are not pressured.
Yeah.
So therefore, they've not been defending that lead.
Yes, fair point. And certainly the team Abbott with Roll Centre have begun to pace themselves, did begin to pace themselves from quite a wee while ago.
Not quite sure that Charlie Lamb was pacing himself when he was in the car. I think Richard Neary did.
He did great.
I think they've all been great. I think this has been a real team effort and proof positive of what you can do. I mean, that's a very, very capable car, prepared properly and by a professional outfit. But all of the drivers in there have done their bit.
But qualifying was a washout.
It's a 24-hour race.
Well, quite. And I'm not knocking them from that point of view, but, you know, you go qualifying, you can't complete a lap, sort it out for the warm-up, and then you go out and run faultlessly for 23 hours and 43 and 13 minutes.
Well, I watched the start from trackside, and as the 71 car rejoins after those gearbox issues described by Derek Bennett earlier to Joe Bradley in pit lane, and watched Richard Neary go about his task with some gusto, but actually with a really contained drive. It was impressive, and that's exactly the way they've approached the entire race.
Couple of
Rick Broikers, meanwhile, in the 303, steady as you like, no glitches. I don't know what he's doing. He may not be pushing that hard in order to make a place. That's going to be beyond him. He doesn't have to push that hard in order to keep his place, because it's beyond Nabil Moutran to close the gap. But he does have to avoid the thing blowing up. And we saw the glitches that the Evo Broikers was having with the car. We saw them on the lap times. We saw every so often there'd be this little spike in the lap times. Rick's been steady as you like. I mean, he's not, as I say, not been the quickest, but he has been steady and consistent, which at this stage in the race is all you want and all you need and all you can ask for.
Into the 223s, Darren Cox last time around, he's tippy-toeing through traffic as well he might at this stage of the race. No lunges up the inside.
Joe Bradley has news from the pits for late stops within the last 45 minutes, Joe. So with just on 41 minutes to go, the threat of rain is still just hanging over us like a meteorological sword of Damocles. And you know what? Really classy from all their competitors saying this is not the way we wanted to make it.
No, absolutely.
I love the respect that the Creventic series promotes. There's a little sort of mantra that was handed to the drivers in the driver briefing. I had it here somewhere, but basically there's 5 or 6 points that boil down to deal with people the way you would like them to deal to you, and it boils down to respect. Enjoy it, and it's respect.
Yes, and that's always been the way. I mean, I know Gary Verne's driver briefings, the 24 Hours of Dubai, are legend, and that is always the way it's been done. And you see that with a happy paddock, without a shadow of a doubt. And year on year on year, up goes the number of entries, and up goes the level of happiness with this as a package. 2:23.9 last time around for Darren Cox.
That's his fastest lap.
It is indeed, and if he's not careful, he's going to end up doing 513 laps.
He's about to be overtaken by the number 1, Seat.
No, he's got to let him go. No fighting here now, Darren. I'm sure that Coxey will be on the radio telling him to let him go. Just do what you're doing, Darren. This is really good. The pressure is on Darren Cox at the moment. Stays well out of the way to allow the dual racing car to go down the inside. That is smart driving. No sense in getting in a scrap. Now, when we were talking about finding people and having a fight with them at various stages of the race, that's absolutely not what Darren Cox needs to do now. He needs to drive around doing exactly what he's doing. He's getting faster in the car. I'm sure he'll be told, OK, that's enough. No need to go any quicker than that.
Rick Broikers, meanwhile, has rejoined the race after fueling the car to the end with no further dramas. The 303. So 2:46 from the 303, then the number 1 car. And then it's the little Peugeot, the number 208. More than half an hour back on track, but what a result for that little car.
Yeah, and 35 minutes delayed, of course, in the early hours. Remarkable story of this chassis that we are looking at the moment, and by that I do mean the car and not Darren Cox, who's driving it. He's got a remarkable story of his own.
Yeah, nice cardigan as well.
Darren, a massive endurance racing fan for very many years. Went to Le Mans washing wheels for a team to get himself a paddock pass to get to Le Mans the first time he went there. And brought up properly by his dad.
Like the rest of us. Or myself, anyway.
Filthy windscreen, and still water on the windscreen, and some bigger raindrops there I spotted.
And Rick Broikers went for the wipers, which tends to suggest it's getting a little worse on the far side of the circuit. That's towards the Buckinghamshire part
Big raindrops.
of Silverstone. Down the Wellington Straight now, and the drama continues as the rain just starts to fall a little heavier, enough to get 3 wipes from the second place car, and the 30 minutes still to go, the Hankook 24 hours of Silverstone.
Meanwhile, Darren Cox is working his lap number 500 with 31 minutes remaining. He's just about a couple of minutes away from completing that milestone. And we've just seen a change in the lead for A2.
Oh, really?
Yes, Wayne Shed into the lead, the 216 car, from the 212 car.
Yeah, you're right.
Now, how's that happened? Didn't spot that one at all developing, just saw the arrow appear, and into the top 10 for the 216 car. With half an hour to go.
Represented the spirit of endurance racing in the last 24 hours. Doesn't have to be a winner, doesn't have to be a driver, it could be a group of people. Lots of votes coming in for the organisers, for the guys leading the race, also for people who've seen through adversity in the race. Bleecker Moreland, the team that led for over 15 hours. A big dump of rain now would make life very interesting for everybody out there, and somewhere Martin Short is cursing me even as I say that.
He might actually give himself the luxury of popping up here and cursing you.
Yes. You're cursing me with something large and heavy around the back of the head.
26 minutes remain, and all 3 of the lead 3 cars now, the lead trio in 227. They respond to the rain beginning to fall a little heavier. More drops on the windscreens visible from the in-car cameras.
I think it's getting heavier. Joe Bradley is out there in the weather. Your assessment, Mr. B?
Well, you know how the concrete apron in the pit road is half tarmac and half concrete?
Yeah.
Well, the concrete is now not white. It's kind of a dark brown. That's what tells me that it really... And let me step out. Because we're underneath kind of a canopy, but if I step out onto the black tarmac, you can feel the rain on your face. It's definitely coming down a lot steadier. Whether it affects the track, I mean, how long have we got? We've got less than... coming up to 25 minutes. If it continues like this, right at the very end, Martin Short shakes his head and says, nah. Quite literally, nah. It's not going to make any difference to... however, looking at the sky, it doesn't even look like it should be raining if you look at the sky.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Apologies for the feedback there from Joe's microphone.
Rocksteady crew, and another 2:27 from Darren Cox this time around. 502 laps in the books now for the race leader. 3 laps the good over Rick Breukers. That was the 163 car. Patrick Mortel just dropped back a place on the last lap. Lost a place to the 122 car. Both the GT86s inside the top 30. 22 minutes now remain. Another 2:27 for the lead car. And in comes the 171, the Peugeot RCZ. Now, who's aboard that machine? It's Jan Engelbrecht brings the car in. You're not going to miss that one on a gloomy day, are you? The bright green.
I think Martin said earlier on, didn't it? It still looks immaculate. I'll have to have a closer look at that car, but I don't think it's got a scratch on it apart from some marks of rubber that's bounced off it. Everything seemingly pretty much intact on it, and that's all part of the shorty way of going endurance racing.
Yep.
Stay away from everything, whether it's moving or stationary, and just keep it on the black stuff, and that's what they've managed to do.
Round and round and round, as he always says.
Indeed, and good old Darren, he's looking at this extra lap now. He's knocked 30 seconds off the overall average that I was expecting him to do.
And look further up the road, and not that much further up the road, and just beyond the corner there, you will see the number 1 car. So Nabil Mutran has not pulled away that far from Darren Cox. Darren let him go quite correctly. 21 minutes now left on the clock before the end of this race. 503 laps in the book for the 246. And it's bring it home time. Drama-free effort required now for the final 10 laps or so.
Either 9 or 10 laps, as I say. It's going to be at the moment, if he keeps up this pace, then he will get the extra lap, and it will be 513 laps that he will complete. The checkered flag will go out to the leading car, which when it crosses the line for the first time after 24 hours has elapsed.
There's future quiz questions galore about this effort, aren't there? Teams, cars, drivers, and races.
Even the nom de guerre adopted by the drivers.
Indeed. Richard Roberts, a.k.a. Darren Cox, a.k.a. Ricky Bobby. And he's just reeling it off. 26-1 this time, so ups the pace just a little. Heading for home. Stephen Licorice is involved in that tussle now in the 102 SP Touring car, which, by the way, is second in its class.
To the race leader.
To the race leader.
Which is the lead, also an SP2 car.
And again, to remind listeners, viewers, of the top 15 cars in this race, just one at the moment looks set not to feature on a podium. And that is the 12th place car, the 205 car, 4th in A3. The cream has risen to the top in this race over 24 hours, or rather over 23 hours and 44 minutes.
Yes, I mean, this is one of the points I made earlier on. I mean, it's not just the cream rising to the top, but it's also demonstrating how difficult it is, because cars from every class have had problems and fallen back, because you don't get cars in different classes rising to the top, unless the other ones have had problems and fallen by the wayside. So there has been a lot of mechanical woes, and we've said about the saga that every team has to tell about how they've got it to the finish. But such has been the stresses and strains that these cars are being put under, that it's not actually that easy to get one of these racing touring cars to the finish of a 24-hour race, which to me just makes it more fascinating and more interesting to watch.
It's a good old-fashioned endurance race.
If it was just reliable cars going round and round, it wouldn't be half as interesting. There he goes.
15 minutes remain.
And a lap in the 2:24s that time from Darren. Yeah, okay, so 5:13 laps.
The Mehmet Ogilvy car.
Nabil is still pushing on, and he is closing ever so gently on Rick Breukers, especially now that Rick is easing up his pace. It's not a position that he can really threaten, but it shows that they are pushing even to this late stage in the race.
In the significant positions, it is the one that were there a late problem, they could take a significant position.
Yeah.
And so it's well worth him pushing right to the end here. Under 10 minutes now. The end of 24 hours of racing. The Hankook 24 hours of Silverstone.
2:24.476 is as fast as Rick has gone since his fuel stop.
Trying to work how that one's happened, because the number 1 car is back behind the 246 again.
It's Darren's pace.
Darren's on lap to himself.
Yes, he has.
Wow.
Pure and simple.
Well done.
And Darren's lap times have been exemplary. Very, very consistent. He got down into the 223s, and then since then kind of stabilised them in the 27s and 26s, and has just been reeling off the lap, staying out of trouble, doing what he has to do.
7.5 minutes remain, and he's going to let the number 1 go, I think, here. No, there's a 195 up the inside of the 246 car. The number 1 car goes the other side, but no, Darren takes the line. And bodywork flapping on the back of that 195 that's been in trouble numerous times through the race.
3 laps to go at the end of this one.
And time for us to announce the winners of the Spirit of the Race Award. I'm just waiting for that to come through from our independent adjudicator. Thank you. Accountancy firm. Thank you.
The lovely Samantha.
Yes. As you might imagine, the ABBA Roll Centre team have had a lot of votes. So have the Team Brit. All the teams have had some kind of problems, as you guys have mentioned, so that everyone has had their favourites. Also, 1 or 2 individual drivers, Krevennik themselves, with a vote. And just waiting for the final tot-up on that. And Ultron Team Peugeot are the winners of our Spirit of the Race Awards, bringing 2 cars to the event and getting them both inside the top 12. Dealt with triumph and disaster with the same attitude, and they will finish in 6th position. 5 minutes to go, so congratulations to Team Ultron Peugeot. I think certainly Bradley and Sarah were 2 real stars there. 4th position, excuse me, yes, for Bradley Philpott, Sarah Bovey as well. 2 very, very good talents for the future. On a personal level, thank you to our team here from Radio Show Limited and to all 221 and the rest of the TV production team, as well as the whole of the Krevennik team and the liaison team from Bernard Cotterill, BRSCC and Silverstone Circuits themselves. This has been a very enjoyable meeting to be at.
Darren Cox slowing down the pace, and I think he's realised that he's within 20 seconds or so. If he slows the pace by 20 seconds over the remaining laps, he's going to save himself a lap. So rather than doing 513, he can slow it down to 512. So
looks like
that's the decision that's been taken, I think.
It looks like Nabi Moutron is sitting in behind for the photograph here. I wonder if we're going to try and get first, second and third together in the same picture. That would be a nice thing to do. This is what used to happen at Le Mans, of course, when there was laps between the cars.
Long way between these two and the second place car, I'm afraid.
Rick's a long way ahead, yes, or behind, depending which way you look at it.
Yeah, but if it's 18 seconds a lap, it's not going to take much to do this.
3.5 minutes remain.
2 more laps to go.
Yeah, it would be nice to see first, second and third in the right order in the shot across the line. As I say, I'm a bit of old-fashioned. Yes, absolutely. Laps between the cars. There's nothing to be gained or lost now. It would be a nice thing to do. And the tradition is that in these last moments, you don't overtake the last car unless you're in a battle for position yourselves. And there's not really anything other than for 10th and 11th position, which
Christian Ritter is coming back again.
Yes. And those two will have to keep an eye on. That's the 216 and the 212. Club corner. Rick has just cleared club corner, so he's not that far behind. I think that's what they are doing.
That lead gap at A2, gentlemen, is coming down and coming down reasonably quickly. It was 4.5 seconds last time. It's come down by a further second with under 3 minutes to go.
Here's the second place car, and that, I think, is just coming on the Wellington Straight. So he's got the 2 other cars not that far ahead of him. This is going to be nice. Now, is Rick going to play the game? Maybe is he going to blast past and upload lap himself?
Now,
yeah, 1 or 2 cars, the walking wounded, just dropping in behind, and we are going to see a proper old-fashioned endurance finish. Oh, I do like this. This is actually, this is the spirit of the race right here.
You got all excited, haven't you, John?
Fantastic stuff.
Darren's not getting too emotional. He goes off, getting a little over-emotional about it all. The 246 car with the 1 tucked in behind, absolutely right. Nabil Moutron is doing exactly that.
Yeah, that's very good by the series champions as well. We've been talking about respect, and I respect our official airway providers talk about that as well a lot. This is brilliant.
The A2 gap has come down to 1.5 seconds.
And we have a proper race on the track as well as this staged photo finish, which is kind of what you want. You want to have both. You want
absolutely agree.
If you have your cake and eat it, John, I think you have, haven't you?
Yeah, I've still got some cake to eat in a moment. I had enough sugar earlier on. I think I may have overdosed. So the Hancock 24 hours at Silverstone, the first round of the Touring Car Endurance Series, is going to be 1 more lap for Darren Cox for the rest of the 246 team. Well, maybe not, actually.
Those racing A2s
are coming up towards us now.
They're going to come up towards this pair. There's going to be a race overtaking this pair for a class win in the final minute.
2:36 last time around by Darren, just pacing the field around and rightly.
No, it'll be fine.
The TV watching this. I'm just watching in the background to see where young Breukers is.
He's right on the other side of the circuit, so I'm not quite sure that's going to work for the photograph. There goes the 216 and the 212 across the line. Now they will get this lap, and now Darren, it's all down to him to bring them down the Wellington Straight, but not with Rick Breukers, I don't think.
Yeah, he's just a little bit too far behind. A phenomenal result. The car that chewed drive shafts for fun in the early part of this event, that was taken through the night by Martin Short and Richard Neri. The car that won here in 2012 and the team that won the inaugural race with Martin Short as one of the drivers will take the first ever Hankook 24 Hours of Silverstone, and the first Touring Car Endurance Series goes to ABBA Commercials with Roll Centre Racing. The checkered flag is out. It's in the air. It waves. And Coxey's brought it home for the whole team. Charlie Cox, and there is the second place car just in the background. Didn't quite get them in the right order. Synchro right there as well, who've come through with Martin Byford fittingly finishing that car's race in third position. Let's go straight down to Bruce Jones.
Yeah, an interview is being made right now. I've just got...
Richard Neary and Martin Short about to join Bruce down there in the pit lane. Let's go down to him, Bruce.
Well, I'm just going to throw to Richard, who's talking to Darren out in the car. The emotion can finally come. The emotion can finally come. Oh,
keep talking, Darren. I've got you on. I've got you on the speakers. Thank you, the marshals.
I thought for a horrible second that Darren had lost the power of speech. It would never happen. But Richard, Neary and Martin Short, well done, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We mustn't forget you started 41st and last. 24 hours later, here you are at the top. But it was a hard race, Martin.
It was, me and Richard did the majority of the work. But it was a tactical team decision. And it paid off. Charles did his piece, Darren did his piece, but we knew the conditions were so bad we had to play to our strengths, and that's exactly what we did. And I can't frankly believe it. I really can't believe it. It's amazing.
Charles, let me just bring you in. Obviously didn't get as much racing as you wanted, but you're going to be on the top step of the podium.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, it's unbelievable, really. It's all about the team result, and we've achieved what we set out to achieve, and more besides. So, I'm delighted, to be frank. And, of course I would like more time in the car, but, I made a little contribution to what we achieved, and it's fantastic.
Well, Martin's going to make the big one. The party's at his house tonight. But Richard, fairly tired now. Now the emotion can come forward. Now the adrenaline can stop.
Yeah, I'm tired. I've done enough driving for one day. There's no doubt about that.
Well, I'm sure your boys out in Italy will be having a good time on their ski trip now. Getting your money. Thank you very much. Well done, gentlemen. To the podium.
Wow.
Let's round up the other results as quickly as we can. A great race to the line for the A2 battle, which had gone back and forth. The A2 cars had problems. It goes the way of the 216 Modena Motorsports car by 0.8 of a second from the 212. SP Touring win it by 3 laps from Red Camel Jordan's NL. The 303 win TCR ahead of Memak Ogilvy Dual Racing in second. A third in TCR, a very long way down. It is the 144 car. Team Ultron Peugeot win A3. Recce Racing win D1. JJ Motorsport win Cup 1. And A2 won by Modena Motorsports by a second. Joe Bradley.
Yeah, I'm just going to say we're...
Yes. OK, Joe, thank you very much indeed. Joe Bradley down there. Well, brilliant racing right throughout the field, and congratulations to everyone who'll be taking a pot. We've got all of the winners in class in the top 10. And we have to go down to 13th position before you find someone who's off a class podium.
TV, would you like?
And that is a remarkable result. Bruce Jones.
A second after 24 hours.
I know, it's incredible, isn't it? Super hard work, huh?
How did you manage to make it so dramatic? I mean, it was going backwards and forwards. Your sister car was out after, 34 minutes? But here you are.
First half hour, the sister car was out, but that was kind of planned. But this last one, it's not good for my heart.
It's great for our hearts. Well done, gentlemen. Enjoy the podium.
Thank you.
Well done. And it's nice to see such a family effort as well, because that's what it's about.
Oh, it's all about the family. We just come out as a big group of us. So I've got all the family from Lincoln out as well. There's about 30 of us here. It's brilliant. It's amazing.
Enjoy the podium. You really worked for that. And thanks for the coffee.
Well, excellent stuff there with the winning cars on the start line. Darren Cox has, on the finish line, excuse me. Darren Cox is out of the car.
I think Darren's actually missed coming in for pit-in where the top 3 cars should be. I think he's been sent the wrong way. So he's actually sitting on the grid with the second and third place cars in pit lane. But Darren is making his way back to pit lane now.
It's coming over the wall. In fact, through the gap in the wall here. as the grid is being used as Parc Fermé. Joe Bradley down in the scrum as ever at the end of the race. Well, gentlemen, I've enjoyed this. We're going to wrap up our international programme and hand over for the formalities in just a moment's time. From the team here, it's been a cracker. Thoroughly enjoyed the Hankook 24 Hours of Silverstone. Third round of the FIA International Endurance Series for the touring car classes, and the opening round of the touring car endurance series. Thanks to all of my commentators, Joe Bradley and Bruce Jones, doing sterling work, and we'll hear from them in a moment down in the pit lane.
So the 2016 Silverstone 24 Hours. Everyone, may I present to you the winning drivers from the ABBA with Roll Centre Racing Team. Martin Short, Richard Neary, Charles Lamb and Darren Cox. Let's talk to Darren Cox first, because we've managed to chat to your teammates, Darren, while you were being all emotional inside the car. Who made the decision to get you to finish the car? Because that's quite an accolade.
Well, Martin makes all the decisions in the team, so we just listen to him. But it's been a brilliant team effort. You know, all I did was choose the right team and car to be with. And if anyone's seen any of the overnight coverage, you know, with Martin and Richard, what they did back to back in 2 hours in, 2 hours out, absolutely mega. That's won the race. And you know, Charles and I have been lucky enough to come along, and Charles got one go in it and was bang on the pace, so I just had to bring the thing home.
Charles, if I could just bring you in. Charles, did you ever think that you'd be standing here at that podium having to start the race dead last yesterday?
No, I mean, to be honest, in a race this long, when you start last, it's not a big deal, to be honest. I think that winning it, however, is the most amazing thing. And no, I didn't expect to be here today in this position. But I thought we'd do okay. You know, I know the team is fantastic. They always bring the car home. And you know, to finish first, you must finish.
Now, I know two gentlemen who probably did expect to finish first, Martin Short and Richard Neary. Even though you started last, guys, you really did think that you could actually do this over the length of the race, I would think.
We'd never even thought about it or considered it or talked about really seriously thinking we
prefer to win and take what comes. You know, we did everything possible to prepare for it. Obviously, the qualifying didn't really go our way, and then, you know, we just see what comes out and just keep pushing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys. Great to talk to you. If we can come off, we'll do the podium presentation properly, where you'll get to spray each other with the lovely champagne. Well done, guys. ABBA Roll Centre, the winners of the 2016 Silverstone 24 Hours. Big round of applause, please. We'll get swiftly on with our podium ceremony. So in reverse order, our third place finish was the Mehmet Ogilvy Dual Racing. Hang on, I'm being given more information. No, I've got it. Our Mehmet Ogilvy Dual Racing, Ramsey Moutran, Nabil Moutran, Sami Moutran and Phil Quiff. Phil Quiff and the Moutrans in third place. In second place, car 303, that the Red Camel Jordan's entry, the Seat Leon of Rick Broikers, Ivor Broikers and Bert de Huys. Second place. And the winners once again, please welcome our winning team, the winners of the Hankook 24 Hours of Silverstone 2016, Team ABBA with Roll Centre Racing BMW, Richard Neary, Darren Cox, Charles Lamb and Martin Short. And we have the national anthem of the winning team. So we'll be swiftly on with our trophy presentation to be presented by series organiser Gary Williams and our Hancock Tyres support from Hancock Tyres for the Hancock 24 Hours of Silverstone 2016. Once again, in third place, car number 1. That's the Mehmet Ogilvy Dual Racing Seat Leon of Ramsey Moutran, Nabil Moutran, Sami Moutran and Phil Quaife. In second place, car 303 Seat Leon, which is the Red Camel Jordans, Rick Breukers, Ivor Breukers and Bert de Huys. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, our winners, the Team ABBA with Roll Centre Racing BMW, car 246 of Richard Neary, Darren Cox, Charles Lamb and Martin Short. Well, we've got time to take another interview, so let's have a word with the Mehmet Ogilvy team. Guys, I need a team representative. Who's going to talk to me? Sami Moutran, you finished 2015 as series champions, but here we are with a touring car series, all of your very own, a series that you can win outright in not just a class win, but a series win.
No, we're really excited about this season. I think last year was epic. It was a dream come true for the whole family, and yeah, looking forward to this. This race was brilliant. Just not being buzzed by GT3 cars all night was a nice surprise for us. So yeah, it was an awesome event, really.
Yeah. And you guys are going to continue for the rest of the year?
Yeah, we're hoping to. Yeah, absolutely. It's part of the plan, part of the program. Moving on Paul Ricard and then onwards from there. So yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully the weather's going to be better. Horrific conditions during the night. Typical English springtime with temperatures of 5 degrees and torrential rain.
It was great. I got the best quote of all time. So I asked somebody, when's the rain going to stop? He's like, in August. It was brilliant. So yeah, hopefully it's slightly better weather for the rest of the season, but it was good. It was fun.
Absolutely. Congratulations, guys. Our podium then. The podium, ladies and gentlemen, for the Hancock 24 Hours of Silverstone 2016. We're almost at champagne springtime. Just a couple more trophies to be given out. And now we have the champagne and trophies for our photo opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, the winning team, Team ABBA with Roll Centre Racing. Right, guys, this is what all the hard work is for. Now we get to spray some champagne. And I think we're going to have an opportunity to speak to our second place team, who are the Red Camel Jordans from the Netherlands. Father and son team of Ivor and Rick Breukers and Bert de Huys. Chaps, let's have a word with you guys who came second while we clear the podium. Moving swiftly on, our SP Touring, our special touring car class. In third place is car 203. That is the Vortex V8 team of Lionel Amarouche, Cyril Calbon, Jeremy Remond and Kurt Thiel. Big round of applause for our third place in the SP Touring class. Second place in the SP Touring class, car 102 of the GR Motorsport BMW, Martin Lanting, Bob Herber, Stephen Licorice and Christoph Ulrich. Well done, guys. And the winners of our SP Touring class, also our overall winners, that is the car number 246 of the Team Aberworth Road Centre Racing BMW. Please welcome back Richard Neary, Darren Cox, Charles Lamb and Martin Short. So, trophy presentation to our SP Touring class. Congratulations to our competitors in our special touring car class, the 203 Vortex V8 team, Lionel Amarouche, Cyril Camon, Jeremy Remond and Kurt Thiel. In second place, car 102, that's the GR Motorsport BMW of Martin Lanting, Bob Herber, Stephen Licorice and Christoph Ulrich. And our winners, also our overall winners, car 246, that's the Team Aberworth Road Centre Racing BMW. Big round of applause, please, for Richard Neary, Darren Cox, Charles Lamb and Martin Short. Everyone ready for the champagne? Oh. Good effort with the champagne, chaps. The final champagne has been sprayed on the final podium then for the Hankook 24 Hours of Silverstone 2016. We know you've loved it. We know we've enjoyed it. We'll see you here next year. Thank you.